Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I scored this sweet little table for $2 and the reason it was $2 is because it had its issues. So do you ever come across a piece of furniture that has scratches, bubbles, water damage, dents, dings, just overall poor condition, not structurally, just cosmetically? I'm talking about a less than perfect surface. Well, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to disguise all of that. We are, of course, going to paint, but I think the star of the show here is going to be the application of the clear and the black wax. My name is BJ, my business is called Junked Up, and I'm so happy to have you here. Let's get started. I'm not using any fancy brushes here for this one, just a cheap old regular chip brush that you can find at any hardware store. And the first thing I'm going to do is use Farm Fresh to cover the entire table. Notice that I am not painting with the grain of the wood. I'm actually painting in all different directions, using kind of a slapping motion and just getting the paint on there and making sure that it's relatively thick. So while this little table is structurally sound and still useful and has some life left in it, it really wasn't worth it for me to try and strip off all of that old, bubbling, damaged veneer to replace it. Underneath wasn't real wood, it was just like an MDF, so it wasn't really an option for me to just strip off the veneer and refinish the wood that was under there. And I didn't want to take the time or, quite frankly, the effort to re-veneer the entire piece. It just wasn't worth it. So this is a great technique when you have something like this that has damaged veneer that you don't necessarily want to take the time or the effort to put new veneer on. And if I'm being completely honest, I love to play with texture and patina, and I love little projects like this that I can really play and see exactly what I can make the paint do. This technique works really well with DIY paint because it is a clay-based paint. You can do it with other paints as well, other chalk-based paints. I have done it where I have left paint out in a bowl overnight, or I've put paint in the freezer for a little bit, or you can even add a paint additive such as salt wash to create a thicker paint. So for this project, I chose to use a second color, which is DIY Paint Apothecary. It's a similar color to Farm Fresh, just a little bit lighter. You don't have to use the second color. You could use 3 colors. You could use as many colors as you want, or you can use just one. It really doesn't matter. I just chose to use the second color to give myself just a little bit of color variation and therefore a little bit more visual depth. I get it. There are some of you who are cringing right now that I just literally poured paint onto my project. But it is what it is. That's what I like to do. I don't like smooth, perfect finishes, and this is a great way to get a lot of paint on there quickly. So now I'm using a hairdryer to get some of that paint to dry. Ideally, you'd want to use a heat gun. I think it works a little bit better. I'm also using a color shaper, which is just a rubber-tipped spatula type of tool. You could use a paintbrush, you could use a paint scraper, but basically what I'm doing is as the paint is drying, I'm scraping it off and smooshing it back down. So scrape and smoosh, scrape and smoosh. So the paint is very wet here. So you'll notice when I'm scraping, I'm actually scraping it all off the table. It's okay, I can just lay it back down. I'm just creating a lot of texture here. So let's dry it up some more using our hairdryer. To purchase any of the products I'm using today, you can go to my website. The link is in the description box below. So this right here is a little bit more of what I'm looking for. You can see that that paint is really nice and thick, and I'm getting little chunks and things in there, and that's okay. I'm just smooshing them back down. If you have areas where you've scraped up some paint and you need to add a little bit more because it's a little thin, that's okay. Just add some more paint, hit it with the hairdryer or your heat gun, you're good to go. So after everything is good and dry, I'm going to give it a light sanding. I don't sand to smooth everything out completely because I want to keep a lot of that texture, but I do smooth it out so that it feels good to the touch. And now we're gonna wax. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a layer of clear wax. And I do this because my paint is a clay-based paint, which means it's porous. So if I went ahead and just used darker black wax right on top of that paint, I'd actually be staining it. That's not what I wanna do. And now comes the fun part. I'm going to add my black wax. Notice that I'm using a brush. I feel like it's important to use a brush because it really gets the wax into all of the nooks and crannies that I've created with my texture. So I'm going to apply a liberal amount of black wax, really working it in there using my brush. Then I'm going to take a clean, lint-free cloth and just give it an all-over wipe down just to get off any excess black wax that's sitting on top. But here's the magic part. I then take a lint-free cloth, clean, dip it in my clear wax, and rub it over the entire thing. I'm not removing all of the black wax, I'm just removing enough black wax from the top part so that it's staying in all of the texture that I created. And I'm telling you, this is the magic. I could have left it with just the black wax, but it really doesn't do it justice. If you do the clear wax, then the black, then clear wax again, it really makes all that texture pop. I like this technique a lot, so let me show you a couple other pictures where I've done the same or a very similar technique using very similar tools and both the clear and the black wax. And hopefully you can see what I mean about the texture and the magic of the black wax. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and I will see you next time. Bye.